It was a stormy evening at Hong Kong's Old Kai Tak Airport, a place that had already earned a reputation as one of the most dangerous airports in the world. In the heart of Kowloon City, surrounded by apartment blocks and steep hills, pilots had to make a sharp, low-altitude turn over the harbor before touching down on a narrow runway that ended right at the sea. On that humid night in 1993, a massive Boeing 747 cargo jet China Airlines Flight 605 was descending through the clouds, heavy with freight, fuel, and the weight of one of aviation's most treacherous approaches, but within minutes, that approach would spiral into chaos. The plane would slide off the runway, plunge into Victoria Harbour, and leave investigators wondering how such a disaster could happen to one of the world's most advanced aircraft. This is the story of how a 747 went off the runway at Hong Kong, and the lessons it forced aviation to learn about judgment, automation, and the limits of human control. The flight begins. November the 4th, 1993, the cargo flight from Taipei to Hong Kong seemed ordinary enough. The crew, a highly experienced captain, a first officer, and a flight engineer, prepared their 747-400F freighter for what should have been a routine hop over the South China Sea. The aircraft, tail number B-165, was a brand new Boeing 747-400, one of the most advanced freighters of its era. With modern avionics, powerful Pratt & Whitney engines, and computer-assisted controls, it represented the pinnacle of long-haul air cargo technology. But as the jet neared Hong Kong, trouble was brewing. A tropical storm named Ira had begun sweeping across the region, battering Kai Tak Airport with heavy crosswinds, gusting rain, and unpredictable downdrafts. At 9:30 p.m., Flight 605 began its descent into Kai Tak. The approach chart for runway 13 looked more like a stunt pilot's maneuver than a landing guide, requiring aircraft to follow a visual right-hand turn at just 700 feet above the ground, aligning perfectly with the runway only seconds before touchdown. The storm approached. As the 747 lined up for its approach, the cockpit recorded increasing turbulence. Rain lashed against the windshield. The aircraft rocked in the gusts. The crosswinds, reported at 35 knots, gusting to 50, were near the operational limit for the 747. Still, the captain decided to proceed. He was confident. He had landed at Kai Tak before. And in aviation, experience sometimes brings both courage and a dangerous kind of overconfidence. Descending through 1,000 feet, the 747 was buffeted violently. The first officer warned, crosswinds picking up. The flight engineer noted the wind shear alert, yet the captain pressed on, trying to keep the runway lights in view through sheets of rain. At 500 feet, the plane was high and fast. But with a runway length of just 3,400 feet, every second mattered. The captain called for flaps 30 and gear down. The aircraft roared toward the harbor's edge, struggling to maintain its path in the shifting wind. The cockpit voice recorder later captured tension building among the crew. The first officer suggested a go around, but it was too late. The captain replied, "We'll make it. Touchdown and disaster." At 10:15 p.m. local time, the Boeing 747 touched down hard, slightly right of centerline. The crosswind caught it instantly, pushing the massive jet sideways. The main landing gear slammed onto the wet concrete, hydroplaning over standing water. "Speed brakes," the captain shouted, but the automatic system didn't engage. Neither did the thrust reversers immediately. The 747's wheels skidded helplessly as the jet thundered down the slick runway. The aircraft's speed still over. 140 knots barely decreased. The end of the runway loomed closer. The first officer tried to deploy reverse thrust manually, but by the time the engine spooled up, the runway lights had already disappeared beneath them. The captain yelled, "We're going off." The massive freighter shot past the end of runway 13, ripped through the perimeter fence, and plunged nose first into Victoria Harbour. The left wing struck a seawall, tearing open the fuel tanks. Water surged into the fuselage as the aircraft tilted precariously, its tail sticking out of the shallow harbor. Miraculously, all 5 crew members survived. They scrambled out through an emergency hatch as rescuers arrived, illuminated by searchlights and the glow of burning fuel on the water surface. The aftermath. By dawn, Hong Kong's harbor was a surreal sight, the tail of a Boeing 747 rising from the water like a monument to human error. The incident immediately grounded operations at Kai Tak, delaying flights across Asia. News cameras captured images that shocked the world, one of the largest, most advanced aircraft on the planet sitting broken at the edge of the sea. Investigators from Hong Kong, a civil aviation department, and Boeing arrived within hours. Their task: find out how an aircraft so sophisticated, flown by such an experienced crew, could end up in the harbor. The flight data recorders told a revealing story. When the plane touched down, the auto brake and spoiler systems, crucial for stopping a heavy jet on a wet runway, never deployed. Why? Because the captain had not fully retarded the throttles to idle during touchdown. That meant the computer believed the aircraft was still in flight, so the braking system stayed off. In those crucial seconds, the 747 was essentially coasting without brakes. By the time the captain realized the mistake, it was too late. The wet surface, hydroplaning, and strong tailwind made stopping impossible. The lessons and legacy. The crash of China Airlines Flight 605 became a turning point for aviation safety in Asia. Airlines around the world began re-examining their crew resource management (CRM) policies, ensuring that all cockpit crew, regardless of rank, were trained to speak up and challenge unsafe decisions. Simulator training was expanded to include wind shear, hydroplaning, and unstable approach scenarios, teaching pilots to recognize when to go around, even in high-pressure situations. Manufacturers like Boeing also updated automation logic and training materials, emphasizing the importance of throttle position in automatic braking systems. And as for Kai Tak Airport, it would continue to operate for just 5 more years. In 1998, it closed permanently, replaced by the new Hong Kong International Airport at Chek Lap Kok, built on an artificial island far from the city, with long, safe runways and modern instrument approaches. But the legend of Kai Tak lives on, and the haunting image of a 747 tail jutting from the sea remains a symbol of its danger and allure. Reflections from the crew. In the years that followed, both pilots of Flight 605 spoke openly about the lessons learned from that stormy night. The captain, a veteran with thousands of flight hours, admitted the weight of command had clouded his instincts. "I should have gone around," he said. "We were fighting the wind, the rain, and our own overconfidence. I thought experience would carry us through, but the airplane had other ideas." His honesty later became part of aviation safety seminars around the world. The first officer, deeply affected by the crash, transformed his regret into advocacy. He became a passionate voice for stronger crew resource management (CRM), reminding young aviators that communication and teamwork matter more than hierarchy. "Never let the fear of questioning your captain stop you from saving a flight," he would tell them. His words resonated across generations of pilots who grew up in a safer, more transparent cockpit culture. Ironically, the tragedy that destroyed one of the world's largest cargo planes became a catalyst for change. The mistakes made in that cockpit reshaped aviation training worldwide, proving that every error, if studied with humility, can become a lesson that saves countless lives. Today, the waters of Victoria Harbour are calm. The site where Flight 605 went down has long been reclaimed for new construction, but if you stand near the old Kai Tak runway, you can still imagine the sound, the roar of jet engines echoing through the city, the lights flickering through the mist, and the enormous 747 bearing down on a strip of concrete that always seemed too small. The crash of Flight 605 was not just a story of failure, it was a story of learning. It showed that no matter how advanced aircraft become, no matter how powerful their engines or intelligent their computers, the human element remains the most crucial and the most fragile part of aviation. The pilots of Flight 605 didn't lose control of their aircraft because they didn't care. They lost control because they tried too hard to win against the pilotsy elements. And the lesson they left behind was simple and eternal sometimes. The bravest thing a pilot can do is go around.